Hey, welcome back to part 2, and if you haven't watched part 1 yet, obviously go back and watch that, because watching this you're not really going to understand why I have a piece of sheet steel screwed to the side of this WRX. So with that said, stay tuned. Alright, so now it's time to manipulate some metal and basically form fit everything as much as possible so that we know where to metal shape. Now we're going to go ahead and do a couple places and distortion those areas, mainly for the same reason, or for the sheer reason I should say, that there is some panel gap going on here. So that's why a lot of this has got pressure on it. You can see it flexing. You know, it's not quite in as far as it should be. It should be right up against that actual panel itself, and it's not. It's leaving that gap in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and take a lot of that pressure off right now, and you can see the dimpling and whatnot. So that's generally the area when you got pressure, and we're going to have to go relieve that because steel just wants to retain its original shape. Alright, so I'm going to take off the pressure right now, and in order to do so, because we have that high spot, I'm going to bring in where the inside here has the most area that needs to be manipulated, and that's obviously this pocket here. So once I start pushing the steel in that direction, it'll take a lot of the strain and stress off of it that's being accumulated now because of these screws. So I'll do that now. Here. Now you see how it wants to stay where it's supposed to be, and it's a lot tighter now. It's actually touching where that panel gap was earlier, now is gone, and that's just by dimpling this area here into the crevice behind it. You know, that's basically what it is once you start manipulating steel, it's either got to push or pull. You know, it's got to go in a certain direction, and you're definitely the one that gets to decide which direction it goes in. So that's the good thing about it. So I'm just going to continue metal shaping it, and I'm going to move it into this crevice behind it and try to accumulate that body roll so that it'd be a lot easier for me to roll this edge here to accumulate this area and this face, and then I'll start working this pocket here. Alright, so now you want to hold pressure on this panel now that I've already got this dimple in as far as the steel will let me. Now, in order to get it to go as far as I want it to be, I'm going to have to start manipulating this edge here because it's got a lot of pressure on it. So to do that, and start folding it on this actual body line sill, and you'll start seeing it come through the more you manipulate it. So you hold pressure on the panel so you have less spring back and it puts more rigidity in the panel. And then that's how you slowly massage it into the pocket itself. Right now we're basically bringing it to this body line here and then this body line here because we're not going to be able to go any further with a flat hammer. It's going to go basically to those pinpoints. And you'll start seeing it. You see these score marks here. That's where that body line is meeting the steel behind it, and I'm actually starting to break into the steel with the hammer and do damage to the steel. That's where you get these marks from, is from the extra amount of pressure or the backer behind it. It's also a good way of getting a guideline if that steel is where it's supposed to be. So that's basically what I'm going to do, is I'm going to work this until I can kind of see the hammer marks coming through where it's stressing on the backside panel. And then after that, then I can start working into the actual pocket itself, because here it's hard to see with the camera, I'm sure, but there's a you see this little swoop here happening. That's actually a lot of pressure. That's a crease. That's actually an edge that's actually come up. You can feel it. So I got to start working that, because that's a stress point now that's starting to come out and saying, hi, you need to address me. All right. So now I'm starting to manipulate that because I've got that stress out. So I'm going to use the flat hammer. Just continue to hold stress up onto the top so you have less bounce. There's a high spot. You always address the high spot first. It says hi to you, so don't be rude. Shake its hand, you know. It says hi, so say hi back. It's just slow. We're not going to try and beat this up. It's a slow process to manipulate it in, so don't rush it, basically, because you're going to just cause too much damage to it and overstress the panel. You don't want to stretch it to a point where you can't bring it back. So we've got the face, and we know that the contour is about this angle. So we're going to go ahead and use the pitch of the hammer here to start manipulating this edge in onto that lip. Now, actually, I should say I use my eye, and you can absolutely take a paint marker in here, draw a straight line, and you know exactly where you're supposed to accumulate that edge. But I've been doing it for so long, I just kind of go by eye because I know I'm going to end up stretching the rest of the metal in there. So it's on you on what you want to do. Alright, so right now we're going to go ahead and we've clamped this in place, because in order to manipulate this, I need to make this panel be stationary so that I can actually form fit this. Now you can see already, I've already started to form fit just the top here. Now slowly move in using my Superman fingers, because I showed you earlier how to make this out of cardboard while using my fingers to do that. I'm basically going to replicate and do the same thing, but now with much stronger fingers. So you want to basically place it on the back side with your clamp, and then as you're using this portion almost as your finger to push it where you want it to go. So as you're tightening, you're going to flex the clamp and push it, slowly manipulating. So now I've got that in the general shape where I want it without having to do any distortion and dimple something I don't want. And now I'll just slowly move my way down. And then just push it into place. And then tightening will push it into the actual body line that you're looking for. You know, it's a slow process, but that's basically the best way I found to do it, so that it's exactly the way you want it to be. And then you just tighten it a little bit more so that it goes a little bit further this time. A little wiggle to push it into place, just to kind of manipulate the metal. And just slowly move down. Alright, so it basically is to where it's, you know, as far as it's going to let me go, because there seems to be, oh yeah, there's a lot of pressure on this panel now. So I need to relieve the pressure, because I can see now this is starting to bow towards me. When I knew that I had, you can even see the dimple here where it was exactly where it's supposed to be. So now I got to bring that back out because it's coming back up and saying hi to me. So now I need to address it because the high spots are always the places that you address first. So go ahead and come back in here with the flat hammer, because with flat hammers you have even distortion across the hammer. That's why we use body hammers. So now, without holding the panel, I'm going to go ahead and just massage it out, and then I'll hold the panel to put structure on it to manipulate it. Make sure you're holding your clamps too, because the immense pressure that is already on here and you putting those pulsing and shock waves throughout, or actually, well, it'll eject the actual clamp itself right at you or come back off. Then you have to do the placement again. Kind of pain in the ass. Just go ahead and hang on to it. They're strong, but they're not that strong. Okay, so to get this pitch here, I actually use a blunt chisel. That's usually probably your best thing. Just go ahead and grind off the actual face itself so it's nice and blunt. And then you can slowly manipulate the metal into that pocket this way and downwards to stretch that area. You want to work from the edge in. That way all of it is able to pull the metal or stretch the metal that they need it. So slow, methodical process, and then you just basically work yourself right up into that edge. I'll go ahead and take a look at it. No gap. Getting there. So I've got the majority of it there. I mean, don't worry about the hammer marks. They're going to be erased once I do the metal finish over it. I'll be able to sand out and work out a lot of the hammer marks. You know, they basically, once I take this off, I could hammer and dolly all this to a nice clean finish, and then go over it, and I can make this panel look perfect if I wanted to go with the just stainless look. But that's what I like about metal. Or basically achieve the shape we're looking for. And there you go. You know, pretty much at the same pocket that it's supposed to be. And then we'll start bending this over and start working the bottom half. You know, basically just work the pocket into the line, start making the pinch welds. And before we do that though, we will wrap this over and let it do its wrinkle thing, because it's going to kind of crinkle up because the metal has nowhere else to go. It's going to have a lot of stress and strain on this corner once I wrap this and then pull it. So with that said, then we'll work on over to the shrinker, and then we'll work the shrinker on that edge there. So it's a lot of information. I get it. It's a lot of work too. So we're going to go ahead and end it there. This is part 2 of how to make a patch panel. Thanks guys for staying tuned. I'm Bill Schneider. This is Rumble Garage. I work on only cars with the stars. Subarus only.